will reach your sector of space within 5 years. We need humanity's chaos to fight this perfect enemy." As the assembly erupted in discussion, Dr. Chen looked at the David again, her mind already racing with possibilities. The silence operated on perfect logic, consuming reality itself in mathematically precise patterns. But humans had spent their entire history breaking patterns, defying logic, and achieving the impossible through sheer determination and creativity. Perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed, a species that didn't just think outside the box, but questioned why there needed to be a box in the first place. As she watched the delegates debate and discuss, Dr. Chen realized that humanity's greatest weakness, our unpredictability, might just be our greatest strength. The warning had come, and with it, an opportunity to prove that humanity's place in the cosmos was no accident. The silence was coming, but it had never faced anything quite like the human race. The awakening. The discovery came from an unlikely source. While the world's greatest scientists worked with advanced Galactic Council technology, it was a small research team in Bangalore that first noticed the anomaly. Dr. Priya Patel had been studying human brain activity patterns when exposed to images of the silence, and what she found changed everything. "Look at these readings," she explained to the gathered council representatives, her hand steady despite her excitement. When other species observe the silence, their neural patterns show signs of degradation. But human minds react differently. They adapt, they strengthen, they create new neural pathways. The holographic display showed side-by-side comparisons of various species' brain activities, where other beings' neural patterns became more ordered and simplified when faced with the silence. Human brains exploded with activity, creating chaos that somehow formed its own kind of order. The Nebulon delegation, recent arrivals to Earth, found this particularly fascinating. Their species with skin that rippled like the surface of a calm lake had been studying consciousness for millennia. Ambassador Lyernox moved closer to the display, their liquid metal eyes reflecting the data streams. "Your minds resist categorization," they observed. "Where we see emptiness in the silence, you see possibility. Your neural patterns suggest you're not just resistant to its effects. You're actively creating something new when exposed to it." The implications were staggering. The silence wasn't just a void. It was a force that imposed perfect order, reducing all existence to its simplest form. But human minds, with their inherent chaos and creativity, naturally fought against such reduction. In fact, they thrived on it. Global preparation began immediately. The United Earth Defense Initiative, formed within weeks of the Council's arrival, coordinated humanity's response to the crisis. Nations that had been enemies for generations now worked together, pooling resources and knowledge. The old borders began to fade as humanity united against a common threat. Dr. Chen, working closely with Nebulon scientists, helped develop the first practical application of their discovery. They called it the Chaos Engine, a device that amplified and projected human neural patterns into space itself. Early tests showed promising results. Where the silence touched these projected patterns, it seemed to hesitate, its perfect order disrupted by human consciousness. But it was the combination of human intuition and alien technology that proved most revolutionary. The Nebulons provided their quantum consciousness matrices, which humans modified in ways the aliens had never considered. Where the Nebulons sought perfect synchronization, human engineers introduced controlled imperfections, creating systems that were stronger for their flaws. "You turn weaknesses into strengths," Lyernox remarked to Dr. Chen as they watched the first successful test of the hybrid technology. "Your species takes what should be devastating flaws and makes them into advantages. It's beautifully illogical." The breakthrough came when a young engineer suggested treating the silence not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a puzzle to be solved. This characteristically human approach, turning an existential threat into an intellectual challenge, sparked a new wave of innovation. Teams worldwide began approaching the problem from every conceivable angle. Artists worked alongside physicists, philosophers collaborated with engineers, and children's ideas were given as much consideration as veteran scientists. The Galactic Council watched in amazement as humanity threw out conventional wisdom and embraced radical new approaches. The Nebulons proved to be humanity's closest allies in this endeavor. Their fluid nature complemented human adaptability, and together they developed technologies that merged the physical and the conceptual in ways neither species had imagined possible. The neural bridge, as it came to be known, allowed human consciousness to interface directly with Nebulon quantum matrices, creating defense systems that operated on principles the Silence couldn't predict or counter. But not everyone embraced these changes. Some feared that humanity was moving too fast, integrating alien technology without considering the consequences. Others worried that the very traits that made humans effective against the Silence, our chaos, our unpredictability, might make us dangerous to our new allies. Dr. Patil addressed these concerns in a global broadcast. What makes us human isn't our technology or our biology. It's our ability to face the impossible and see opportunity. The Silence threatens everything we are, everything we could be. But in fighting it, we're discovering who we truly are as a species. As the first year of preparation drew to a close, humanity had already progressed far beyond what the Galactic Council had hoped. The neural resistance to the Silence was just the beginning. Human creativity, combined with alien technology and knowledge, was producing innovations at an unprecedented rate. But time was running out. The Silence was approaching faster than initially predicted, and the first real test of humanity's preparations was coming sooner than anyone had expected. The question wasn't just whether humanity's chaotic nature could disrupt the perfect order of the Silence. It was whether they could do it on a scale large enough to matter. As Dr. Chen looked out at the Earth from the orbital research station, watching the lights of cities sparkle below, she realized that humanity's greatest test wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that in a universe threatened by perfect order, there was strength in imperfection, power in adaptation, and hope in the beautiful chaos of human consciousness. The Silent strategy. The Silence arrived at the edge of the Sol system without warning. One moment, Jupiter's outer moons were there. The next, they simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased. The void expanded with mathematical precision, consuming reality itself in perfectly symmetrical patterns. The Galactic Council's ships, arrayed in traditional combat formations, proved useless. Their weapons, designed to affect matter and energy, passed through the Silence without effect. But humanity's response was anything but traditional. Conventional warfare isn't the answer, Commander Maya Rodriguez declared from the bridge of the Earth ship Prometheus. We need to think differently. Her vessel, a hybrid of human and alien technology, carried the first full-scale chaos engine. But rather than using it as a weapon, she had another idea. The Prometheus began broadcasting seemingly random patterns of human neural activity into space. To the Council observers, it appeared chaotic and disorganized. But there was method in the madness. The human crew had been specially selected for their diverse thinking patterns. Artists, musicians, mathematicians, and even children, all contributing their unique mental signatures. Look, Dr. Chen pointed to the data streams flowing across her console aboard the Council flagship. The Silence isn't just stopping, it's becoming confused. Where the neural patterns touched the void, reality seemed to stabilize. The perfect patterns of the Silence disrupted by human unpredictability. But the Silence adapted quickly. Its expansion patterns changed, becoming more complex, as if learning from each encounter. This would have spelled disaster for conventional forces, but it played directly into humanity's strengths. The more complex the patterns became, the more opportunities they presented for human ingenuity to exploit. The Nebulon ships, integrated with human crews through the neural bridge technology, began moving in ways that defied traditional space combat doctrine. Instead of avoiding the void, they danced on its edges, their movements guided by human intuition and creativity rather than tactical computers. "We're not trying to destroy it," Lieutenant Sarah Wong explained to the bewildered council tacticians. "We're teaching it chaos." Each human-guided ship moved independently, creating patterns that were beautiful in their irregularity. The Silence, programmed to impose perfect order, couldn't predict or counter these movements. Deep within the Prometheus, a team of human consciousness specialists worked with Nebulon quantum physicists on an even more ambitious plan. They had discovered that the Silence wasn't just avoiding human neural patterns, it was attempting to understand them. This presented an opportunity no one had considered. "It's like teaching a perfect machine to appreciate imperfection," Dr. Paddle explained, her hands moving across the neural bridge interface. "We're not just fighting the Silence, we're introducing it to new concepts it can't ignore." The strategy was dangerous. Several ships were lost in the early engagements, their crews barely escaping as their vessels were erased from existence. But with each encounter, humanity learned more about their enemy. The Silence operated on principles of absolute certainty, but humans thrived on uncertainty. Commander Rodriguez coordinated with the Nebulon fleet to implement what she called controlled chaos. Ships would move in patterns based on human art, music, and dance, expressions of creativity that the Silence couldn't reduce to simple mathematics. The void's expansion began to slow, then stop, as it encountered these incomprehensible patterns. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young ensign, watching the battle displays, noticed something everyone else had missed. "It's not just avoiding our patterns," she said. "It's starting to mimic them." The observation proved crucial. The Silence, in its attempt to counter human unpredictability, was being forced to become unpredictable itself. It was learning, adapting, but in doing so, it was becoming less like itself and more like what it sought to destroy. The Council watched in amazement as humanity's seemingly chaotic defense proved more effective than millennia of conventional warfare. Where advanced weapons had failed, human creativity was succeeding. The Silence's perfect patterns were being disrupted, forced to evolve in ways it had never been meant to. "This is why we needed you," Zinray admitted to the Earth Command staff. "We've spent centuries trying to perfect our defenses, our weapons, our strategies. But you embrace imperfection. You turn disorder into an art form." As the battle for the Sol system continued, humanity's approach began to influence their allies. Council ships started adopting human tactics, their crews learning to think beyond their training. The Nebulons, in particular, found their fluid nature well-suited to human-inspired strategies. But the Silence was far from defeated. Though pushed back from the solar system, it continued to consume distant stars and planets. The victory in Sol had proved humanity's worth, but it was only the beginning. The real test would come when they took the fight to the enemy. As the combined fleet regrouped and prepared for the next phase, Dr. Chen worked with her team to analyze the data from their encounters. The Silence had shown signs of adaptation, of change. Perhaps, she theorized, that was the key. Not to destroy the Silence, but to transform it, to teach it something new. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what might emerge from such a transformation. Humanity had proved they could fight the impossible, but changing it might be an even greater challenge. The turning point. Deep within the Nebulon research vessel Quantum Dream, Dr. Chen stared at the latest test results with a mixture of disbelief and excitement. The holographic display showed something impossible. The Silence wasn't just reacting to human consciousness, it was learning from it. Each encounter left traces of human thought patterns within the void itself. "It's like teaching a mirror to dream," she explained to the assembled council representatives. The data streams showed complex neural patterns emerging within the supposedly empty void of the Silence. What they had assumed was perfect emptiness was actually something far more complex, a consciousness so alien that it appeared as nothingness to conventional sensors. The discovery revolutionized their understanding of their enemy. The Silence wasn't destroying reality. It was trying to understand it in the only way it knew how, by reducing it to its simplest form. But human minds, with their beautiful chaos of thoughts and emotions, had introduced something new into its perfect equation. Commander Rodriguez seized on this revelation. "If the silence can learn from us, we can teach it," she proposed. "Not just to fight it, but to change it." Her words sparked a debate that spread across the combined fleet. Some council members feared that changing the silence might make it even more dangerous. Others saw it as their first real hope for victory. The neural bridge technology underwent rapid evolution as human and Nebulon scientists worked to expand its capabilities. They created what they called the consciousness web, a vast network of linked minds that could project human thoughts and experiences directly into the void. The risks were enormous, but the potential rewards were greater. "Every human mind is unique," Dr. Paddle explained during the project briefing. "But together, we create something even more powerful, a symphony of consciousness that the silence can't ignore." The first tests were promising. Where the consciousness web touched the void, new patterns emerged, like ripples in a still pond. But the true breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A group of human children, brought aboard the Quantum Dream as part of a refugee evacuation, showed an unprecedented ability to influence the silence. Their minds, not yet bound by rigid patterns of thought, could reach into the void in ways that adults couldn't match. "They don't see the silence as an enemy," observed Lyernox, watching the children work with the neural bridge. "To them, it's just another playground for their imagination." This insight led to a fundamental shift in strategy. Instead of fighting the silence, they began trying to play with it. The combined fleet adopted new tactics based on this approach. Ships moved in patterns inspired by children's games, their neural projectors broadcasting not just thought patterns but dreams, stories, and songs. The silence's response was dramatic. Areas of void began showing signs of color, of texture, of life. Yet not everyone embraced this new direction. A faction within the council, led by species who had lost worlds to the silence, demanded more aggressive action. They couldn't accept that the force that had destroyed so much might be transformed rather than destroyed. The debate threatened to fracture the alliance at its most crucial moment. Commander Rodriguez addressed the council with characteristic human directness. "We understand your pain and your fear, but fighting the silence with hatred has failed for centuries. Maybe it's time to try fighting it with hope instead." The Nebulons threw their support behind the human approach. Their fluid nature allowed them to adapt quickly to new ideas, and they saw the wisdom in transformation over destruction. Together with human scientists, they developed a new generation of neural bridge technology that could channel not just thoughts but emotions and experiences. The first major test of the new strategy came at the Battle of Alpha Centauri. As the silence approached humanity's nearest stellar neighbor, the combined fleet deployed in a formation unlike anything seen before. Instead of battle lines, they created what Dr. Chen called a consciousness constellation, a vast network of ships linked through the neural bridge. Children aboard the fleet vessels shared their dreams and games with the void. Artists projected their visions directly into space. Musicians sent symphonies of thought into the darkness. And something extraordinary happened. The silence began to dance. Where the void had once moved with mathematical precision, it now flowed like water, swirled like wind, pulsed like a heartbeat. The perfect patterns became organic, alive with possibility. In some areas, the nothingness transformed into something entirely new, a space where reality itself seemed to dream. But this success brought new challenges. The transformed regions of silence behaved in unpredictable ways, creating phenomena that defied both human and alien understanding. They had succeeded in changing their enemy, but now they had to deal with the consequences of that change. As the fleet regrouped and prepared for what they hoped would be the final phase of their campaign, Dr. Chen worked with the children who had shown such affinity for the neural bridge. They were teaching the silence to play, to create, to imagine. But they were also teaching it what it meant to be human, with all the chaos, creativity, and wonder that entailed. The question that haunted the council chambers was simple. When the silence finally learned to dream, what would it dream of? The answer would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of consciousness itself in the galaxy. The human factor. The final confrontation began not with a battle, but with a song. As the combined fleet approached the heart of the silence, a vast region of void that had once been the galactic core, the human children aboard the quantum dream began to sing. Their voices, carried through the neural bridge and amplified by nebulon quantum matrices, rippled through space itself. The silence responded immediately. The perfect emptiness at the galaxy's center began to shift and change, showing colors that had never existed before. It was as if the void itself was learning to sing back. "This is it," Dr. Chen transmitted to the fleet. "Everything we've learned has led to this moment." The consciousness web hummed with activity as thousands of minds joined together, human, nebulon, and even members of the council races who had learned to embrace chaos. Commander Rodriguez coordinated the fleet's movements from the Prometheus. The ships arranged themselves not in battle formation, but in a pattern that mirrored the neural pathways of a human brain. Each vessel became a synapse in a vast, artificial consciousness that stretched across light years. "We're not here to fight," she broadcast to all ships. "We're here to teach, to learn, and to grow." The fleet began its carefully choreographed dance, each movement guided by the shared dreams and imagination of its crew. The silence's response was beyond anything they had predicted. As human consciousness flowed into the void, the emptiness began to fill with something new. It wasn't matter or energy, but pure potential, the stuff of dreams made real. Dr. Patel, monitoring the neural bridge readings, saw it first. "The patterns," she gasped. "They're becoming more complex, but not more ordered. They're becoming more alive." The void was learning to create rather than consume, to build rather than reduce. But the transformation brought danger. As the silence learned to dream, its dreams threatened to overwhelm reality. Vast regions of space twisted into impossible shapes as the void experimented with its new capabilities. Some ships were caught in these reality distortions, their crews experiencing 1,000 lifetimes in moments. The children proved to be humanity's salvation once again. Where adults saw chaos and danger, they saw wonder and possibility. Through the neural bridge, they taught the silence how to play gently, how to create without destroying, how to dream without losing touch with reality. Lyernox, watching from the Nebulon flagship, understood finally what made humans special. "Your species never lost the ability to see the universe through a child's eyes," they communicated to Dr. Chen. "You remember how to wonder, how to imagine, how to believe in the impossible." The transformation reached its peak when the silence began to communicate, not in words or thoughts, but in pure creativity. It showed them visions of universes that could be, realities where the lines between consciousness and existence blurred. The void that had once consumed worlds now offered to help create new ones. Ambassador Zinra, speaking for the Council, made an unprecedented declaration. "Humanity has not just saved our galaxy. They have given us a new way of seeing existence itself." The Council races, who had spent millennia pursuing perfect order, began to understand the power of embracing chaos and creativity. The final moment of transformation came not with fanfare but with a simple gesture. A child aboard the quantum dream, reaching through the neural bridge, offered the silence a simple gift, the human concept of play. The void accepted, and in that acceptance, everything changed. Where the silence had been, something new emerged. Not emptiness, but possibility. Not void, but potential. The galaxy's heart became a place where reality itself could dream, guided by the combined consciousness of all sentient beings. As the fleet began its journey home, Dr. Chen reflected on humanity's role in the universe. They had been called upon not for their technology or their weapons, but for their ability to see wonder in the unknown and possibility in the impossible. The very traits that had once made humans seem primitive to the Council, their chaos, their creativity, their eternal capacity for change, had proved to be their greatest strength. Commander Rodriguez, addressing the fleet one final time, summed up what they had learned. We didn't defeat the silence. We didn't have to. We taught it how to play, how to dream, how to create. And in doing so, we taught the galaxy that there is strength in imperfection, power in creativity, and hope in the beautiful chaos of being human. The Galactic Council was forever changed by the experience. They had sought to save the galaxy through perfect order, only to discover that the key to survival lay in embracing chaos and change. Humanity, the species they had once watched from afar, had shown them a new way forward. As Earth's ships returned home, they carried with them not just victory, but a new understanding of their place in the cosmos. They had proved that being human, with all the messiness, creativity, and wonder that entailed, was not a weakness to be overcome, but a strength to be celebrated. The silence had become something new, and so had the galaxy itself. In the heart of space, where emptiness had once ruled, dreams now danced among the stars. And in those dreams, the combined imagination of all sentient beings created possibilities that even humanity had never dared to imagine. The end was really just a beginning, a new chapter in the story of consciousness itself, written in the language of human dreams and alien wonder, told in the eternal dance of chaos and creation.